My daughter left me alone in a hospital in a foreign country without money, without my passport, without hope. She wanted to get rid of me once and for all so she could take my house for herself. But when she opened the door to the house, I was already sitting there smiling. "Oh, you're back," I said softly. "Welcome back. I've been expecting you." She froze. "Before we continue, please subscribe to Revenge on E and tell me in the comments what time it is where you are right now." Now, let's begin. When Melissa told me she wanted to take me on a mother-daughter vacation, I almost cried. We hadn't been close in years. Ever since her father's death, she'd grown cold, like someone had switched off her warmth and left only shadows behind. So when she showed up one afternoon waving 2 airline tickets to Thailand, smiling like the old days, my heart nearly burst. "Mom," she said, "you've worked your whole life for me. Let me do something for you for once. I want us to heal together." I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that my little girl had come back. "Thailand," I said, laughing nervously. "That's half the world away." "Exactly," she said. "Far from everything that hurt us." The flight was long, but I didn't mind. Melissa booked a beautiful hotel near the sea. We visited temples, took photos, and for the first time in years, I heard her laugh, really laugh. Every night, she'd say, "You see, Mom? I told you this trip would make us closer." I believed her. I thought this was a new beginning. But small things started to bother me. She insisted on keeping my travel documents for safety. She handled all the bills, paid in cash, never letting me see receipts. And once, when I reached for my purse at dinner, she stopped me. "Don't worry, Mom," she said quickly. "You're on vacation. I'll handle everything." Her tone was sweet, but her eyes didn't match her smile. One evening, as we sat by the hotel balcony, she said quietly, "You should rest more, Mom. You've done enough in life. I'll take care of things from now on." It sounded loving, almost poetic, but something in the way she said "take care of things" made my chest tighten. Still, I brushed it off. After all, she was my daughter, my only family. If I'd known what she was truly planning, I would never have stepped on that plane. The third day in Thailand was the first time I felt something was wrong. We had just come back from a temple tour when the world around me began to spin. My hands trembled. My knees gave way.
"Mom,
are you okay?" Melissa's voice sounded far away. I tried to answer, but my tongue felt heavy, my throat dry. Everything faded to black. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in the hotel room. I was lying on a white hospital bed. The smell of antiseptic filled the air, and the faint beep of a heart monitor echoed somewhere near my head. A nurse stood beside me, smiling kindly. "You fainted, ma'am. You're in good hands," she said in a thick accent. But the room was small, windowless, and Melissa wasn't there. "Where's my daughter?" I asked weakly. The nurse hesitated. "She went to get your things. Said she'll come back soon."
Soon.
That word would haunt me for days. Melissa returned that evening, her face full of fake concern. "Oh, Mom, you scared me to death. You collapsed at the hotel lobby. They rushed you here. You must have been dehydrated." She handed me a small bottle of water. "Here, drink this. You'll feel better." I sipped slowly, trying to ignore the metallic taste on my tongue. "Where's my passport?" I asked. She smiled too quickly. "In the hotel safe. Don't worry, I've got everything under control." Her tone was too casual, too smooth, like she'd practiced those words. Over the next 2 days, my dizziness got worse. I felt weak, drowsy, disconnected, as if my body didn't belong to me anymore. Melissa barely let me see the doctors. She said she'd handle the bills and keep me updated. I didn't understand. I was too sick, too confused. But deep inside, a voice whispered something's terribly wrong. On the morning of the 4th day, Melissa came in wearing sunglasses, a wide hat, and an unfamiliar perfume. She leaned close, kissed my forehead, and said, "Mom, I have to step out for a bit. Just rest, okay? I'll be back before lunch." I nodded weakly. She turned, hesitated at the door, and smiled a long, strange smile that didn't reach her eyes. Then she walked out. And that was the last time I saw my daughter for weeks. When I woke again, no sight of Melissa. I tried to sit up, but my body felt like lead. My mouth was dry, my tongue thick. Melissa? I whispered. No answer. A nurse appeared and smiled kindly. Rest, ma'am. Your daughter said she went for a short errand. I nodded, still dizzy. How long has she been gone? The nurse checked my chart. 3 days. My heart skipped. 3 days? She hesitated. Yes, ma'am. She paid for only 2 nights. You'll need to clear the rest before discharge. That's when panic began to set in. I reached for my purse, gone. My passport, my wallet, my phone, all gone. Asked the nurse to please call my daughter. She dialed the number twice, then frowned. It says disconnected. Her phone disconnected, and the nurse simply said, She left, ma'am. She is not coming back. My stomach twisted in fear. Left? What did she mean, left? I sat up slowly, feeling the weight of realization crush my chest. I tried to call the embassy from the hospital phone, but it required a code. When I asked the nurse again, she frowned. Your daughter paid only 2 nights, she said softly. After that, you must go. My daughter hadn't just abandoned me. She had planned this. And I was trapped sick, alone, in a country where no one even spoke my language. A chill spread through me. I remembered the strange papers Melissa had given me to sign in the hotel lobby, the dizziness after every meal, how she insisted on keeping my documents safe. No, this wasn't jet lag. It was betrayal. The nurse handed me a small, white envelope. Your daughter left this. My fingers trembled as I unfolded the note. It said, I'm sorry, Mom. Don't try to come home. It's better this way. For a long moment, I just stared at those words. Then I felt something I hadn't felt in years, quiet, burning anger. She thought she had gotten rid of me, but she had no idea who she was dealing with. I lost track of how many days I stayed in that hospital. The nurses began avoiding my room. No one wants to talk to a patient who can't pay. I overheard them whispering that I should be discharged soon, with or without payment. At night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling fan. My body felt weak, but my mind was sharper than ever. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Melissa's smile, the one she gave me when she handed me that forged travel insurance form. One morning, a young nurse entered quietly. Her name tag said Dao. Unlike the others, she didn't rush out. She brought me tea and said softly, You are nurse too, yes? From your hands, I can tell. Her kindness almost broke me. I nodded. Retired. A long time ago. Dao helped me translate the hospital papers. That's when I discovered something unbelievable. Melissa had filed an emergency report claiming I was mentally unstable. That report froze my bank access and gave her control over my funds. My heart sank. My own daughter had erased me on paper. But Dao didn't pity me. She smiled, that calm Thai smile, and said, Then we start again, yes? With her help, I began assisting in the ward, cleaning wounds, checking vitals. The doctors noticed and allowed me to stay in exchange for food and shelter. It wasn't much, but it was survival. Every night before bed, I repeated the same words in my mind. She thinks I'm gone. Let her think so. Because the longer she believed that, the closer I got to coming back. Weeks passed and I grew stronger. Not just in body, in spirit. Dao helped me regain my passport through my country's consulate. It wasn't easy. Melissa's mental instability report had spread through every official channel. My bank accounts were locked, my house listed under her name, my existence almost erased. But when you've spent your life as a nurse, you learn patience, the quiet kind that waits and watches. At the consulate, I filled out forms under my maiden name. I told them I'd lost everything to a family dispute. The officer looked at me for a long moment, then stamped the paper. We'll issue an emergency passport, ma'am. You'll be fine. That night, I sat on the narrow hospital bed and opened my small notebook, the one Dao had given me. I wrote only one line. She thinks I'm gone. Let her think so. With the little I had, I began saving. Dao arranged small translation jobs for tourists who needed help with medical English. Each coin, each note I earned, was one step closer to home. Before I left, Dao held my hands. You go, but don't forget you have kind heart. Don't let revenge take it. I smiled. I won't. I lied. As the plane lifted off, I looked down at the lights of Bangkok fading beneath the clouds. When the plane touched down, I felt my heart pounding so loud I could hear it. I hadn't been home in nearly 6 weeks, yet it felt like years. Everything had changed, except my determination. I took a cab straight from the airport. Coming home felt like stepping into someone else's life. My name was still on the mailbox, but the locks were changed. The garden I once tended had withered. Melissa wasn't there. A neighbor whispered she'd gone abroad to relax after her mother's passing. So that was the story she told everyone, that I was dead. I could have gone to the police right away, but revenge requires patience. From a small guest house near the old market, I watched my home every day. It wasn't Melissa I was watching for, it was my house itself. I needed to know if she'd rented it out, if anyone still came by, or if the place had fallen silent under her lies. I saw lights flicker on some evenings, maybe an automatic timer she'd set before leaving. I took note of everything. Then one afternoon, a neighbor mentioned Melissa's return flight was in 2 days. That night, I walked back to my house, the key still hidden under the flower pot, right where I'd left it. I cleaned the porch, brewed tea, and waited. When the taxi finally stopped at the gate, Melissa stepped out, dragging her designer luggage like a queen returning to her palace. I sat back in my chair, as she unlocked the door. When her eyes met mine, her smile froze. Her voice trembled. Mom? How are you here? I sipped my tea slowly and looked up at her. Welcome back, I said softly. I've been expecting you. I have a surprise for you. The color drained from her face. She dropped her keys. For the first time in her life, she looked small. She thought she buried me in another country. She never imagined I'd crawl out of the grave she built and come home first. Melissa didn't sleep that night. I heard her pacing the hallway, whispering into her phone, probably trying to confirm what she already feared, that I was real, alive, and very much in her way. The next morning, I acted fragile, my voice soft, my hands trembling just enough. I forgive you, Melissa, I said, forcing a tired smile. Let's just move on. Her eyes darted nervously. You don't remember what happened, do you? I lower my gaze. Not clearly. Everything after Thailand is a blur. Her relief was instant. She almost smiled. You must have hit your head, she said quickly. The doctors said you were confused. I nodded, pretending to believe every lie. That was the moment she relaxed, and that was my moment to begin. Over the next few weeks, I let her believe I was harmless. But I was sorting things out in my own way. When she left for work, I went through her drawers, her study, her computer. I found emails to a lawyer, forged property documents, even a recorded call where she'd pretended to be me. I copied everything. Every file. Every word. At night, she'd tell her friends over wine that her poor mother barely remembered her name. I smiled from my room, listening, recording every word. She thought she'd fooled me. But she didn't realize the real game had just begun. By the time autumn came, I had everything I needed, copies of her forged signatures, the fake lawyer's letters, even voice recordings where she bragged about finally getting the house she deserved. But evidence means nothing without timing. Revenge, like medicine, requires the right dose at the right moment. So one morning, as she left for work, I said casually, I'm making dinner tonight. A real one. Just the two of us. And maybe your lawyer friend should come too. I'd like to thank him for all his help. She looked surprised, then wary. You're really okay with everything? She asked. I smiled. You're my daughter, Melissa. What else can I be but okay? That evening, the table was set, candles flickered, and the smell of roasted chicken filled the air. She didn't know it yet, but this dinner wasn't about peace. It was Judgment Day, served warm. When they arrived, she played the doting daughter for show. Her lawyer raised a glass to new beginnings. But before he could take a sip, his phone rang. He excused himself, checked the screen, then froze. A moment later, police sirens wailed outside. Officers stepped through the doorway with printed files, the same evidence I had quietly sent that morning. Melissa turned pale. "Mom, what did you do?" I set down my glass and looked at her calmly. "Dinner's over, sweetheart." Her lawyer tried to leave, but the officers blocked the door. Melissa's hand shook as she realized what was happening. For the first time, she saw me not as her mother, but as her reckoning. The next few weeks passed like a blur of headlines and hearings. Neighbors whispered. Reporters called. Everyone wanted to know how a daughter could abandon her own mother in a foreign hospital and steal everything she owned. Melissa's face was everywhere, newspapers, television, even online. Each time I saw her photo, I felt no joy, just a strange, quiet sadness. In court, she looked smaller than I remembered, the arrogance gone, replaced with trembling hands and sleepless eyes. When the judge asked if she wished to speak, she broke down completely. Through tears, she confessed everything. How she'd forged my signature, transferred my house, drained my savings. She admitted she'd left me in Thailand, hoping I'd never come back. Her voice cracked when she said, "I don't know what came over me. I thought I deserved more. I thought she'd forgive me like always." The courtroom was silent. Even I couldn't look at her for a moment. The judge sighed. Greed has many excuses, but none that save us from the truth. The verdict came swiftly. Guilty on all counts: fraud, forgery, and abandonment. She was sentenced to prison, but I didn't attend the final hearing. Instead, I wrote her a letter. A mother can forgive, but the law cannot forget. You took everything from me, except my strength, and that's the one thing you can never steal. I signed it simply, Mom. And for the first time in a long while, I slept peacefully. It's been 6 months since the trial. The house is mine again, though it feels different now. Quieter, wiser, older. I rebuilt the porch where she once left me for dead, planted new flowers along the path, and started spending my mornings in the garden with a cup of tea. Sometimes the neighbors stop by. They speak softly, as if afraid to disturb the air around me. But I smile. Because I'm not broken. I'm just awake. Every petal that blooms reminds me of survival. Every sunrise reminds me that peace isn't given, it's earned. There are days I still think of her. Of the little girl who used to run barefoot through this same garden, laughing, calling me Mama. I wonder when she changed, or if it was the world that changed her. But then I remember something my late husband once said. You can't teach someone love if they refuse to listen, but you can teach them consequence. I kept his words close. When the evening light fades, I walk to the porch and watch the horizon burn gold. That's where I find my closure, not in her punishment, but in my peace. Revenge, I've learned, isn't about making them suffer. It's about making yourself whole again. And as I sit there, the wind carrying the scent of jasmine and justice, I whisper to the fading sky. You took everything from me, Melissa, and still I rose.